Hey guys, welcome to the post-market report. And as you can see, I have the Nifty chart here. We have had one of the most boring days ever in the stock market. Maybe probably the most flattest day of 2024. I can just sum up the entire day by just drawing a single line here. Absolutely sideways. Even though there were so many key events and major news happening in the stock market. So the main reason behind such a silent market is the RBI monetary policy. As you can see, started on last Wednesday. Today it got over, and clearly many major events were discussed. But I think the market had already waited in all the news that were going to come out of the monetary policy. Clearly, we noticed that if I can show you the 4-hour chart here, in the last couple of days itself, we noticed a huge rally driven by the monetary policy, whatever was going to be discussed. So clearly, it was all waiting. But also, I want you guys to take a look at the beautiful pattern that have emerged in the Nifty chart here. As you can see, a beautiful head and shoulder pattern, and then there was a breakdown of that pattern, headed on a downward trajectory, but then a completely news driven week which pushed the market higher up. And now today on a Friday, it has closed exactly near that resistance zone. It did not break it. So clearly, I myself, I'm hoping that market will go sideways or maybe even downward, because there's no major event happening in the stock market the next coming week. But however, we have US Fed rate meeting, Fed rate cut. Will they actually increase the rate, or will they keep it stagnant? So clearly there's one big event coming in, but that's on 16th to 17th of this month. So clearly I'm very interested to know what will transpire in the market. Will it just go sideways like it did today? And next off, I have a chart of Bank Nifty as well. As you can see, unlike Nifty, market opened here, but then it showed a bit of volatility. As as the news kept coming from the monetary policy, we saw a bit of volatility, but then market overall just stayed sideways for the entire day. So again, I have to show you guys the 4-hour chart here. As you can see, I myself will be watching out for two main levels. If you can notice, we have the all-time high at 54,500. So clearly, not only is it the all-time high resistance, but also it will act as a psychological resistance. In Bank Nifty, as we already know, multiples of 500 will act as a psychological barrier. Here also we noticed 52,500 acted as a very strong resistance, right? Took resistance multiple times, and this week it was able to break out of that resistance. But clearly the reason behind it is many people buy, make their huge positions, and there'll be huge OI data on this multiples of 500 in Bank Nifty. So clearly we have a huge resistance at the top and a huge support on the downside. So it will be a very interesting week for the coming days. Next off, the main event of the day is the RBI monetary policy, as I just mentioned to you guys. And clearly one of the main important, the first news that came out is the repo rate, and they're keeping it absolutely unchanged. So as we know, this is a very neutral stance by RBI. So clearly RBI repo rate is again set at 6.5, and I think since February of 2023, this is probably the 11th month where they have not changed at all on the repo rate. And so clearly the market has reacted like it should, because they keep the rates unchanged, market goes flat, right? And the next major event that came out of the MPC meeting today is the retail inflation, right? Because of that, they're mentioning that we are not going to increase the repo rate, we're just going to keep it the same thing. So clearly that has a good impact on all the banking stocks, as we saw that in the this current week. Basically we saw a huge up move rally, and also another reason for that up move rally was the CRR rate. So CRR basically stands for cash reserve ratio, and they have increased it by 50 basis points, and they have cut it down by 50 basis points. That means it was at 4.5 and it has become 4%. And this was one of the main reason why this current week we saw a huge up rally in all the Bank Nifty stocks. So now CRR rate, whenever RBI cuts it down, what happens is that more money is injected into these banks, and they'll be able to improve the liquidity, and then more companies like listed or unlisted companies in India, the manufacturing sector, everyone will be able to borrow more money, and which in return increases the GDP growth data and the GST collection and everything. The whole economy is sort of driven by this CRR rate. So clearly market reacted very positively to this news. And next off, I also have another major important news that came out of this RBI meeting is the GDP growth data. We already noticed, the first of this month we got the data which was pretty disappointing, lowest in I think the last 7 months. So clearly now RBI has come out and said, what, clearly GDP growth is declining, we might as well change our forecast. So initially we had a 7.2% growth forecast. Now they are saying, what, maybe we'll just grow at 6.6%. So it's a very realistic approach. So market did not react any new thing to it, because we already knew this particular thing was coming. And next off, RBI also did an inflation estimate at 4.8%. And this is because inflation data when it came out this month, the data basically mentioned it was up due to the food inflation, specifically due to the food inflation. So CPI is also working with them to make sure that the food inflation comes down, and their estimate is at 4.8% for the next month. And clearly, it was at 4.5%. It's up about 30 basis points, not a huge deal, but still, all the particular news that I'm mentioning was already weighed in the stock market. We knew about this news back in Monday itself, so market did not react freshly to this particular news. And next off, we have another relief for home loan borrowers. Apparently, in the monetary policy, RBI basically mentioned they'll bring in some sort of an incentive for all these people who are paying up EMIs, basically, especially who paying EMI based on home loans. So basically, they will get their rates cut by 50 to 100 basis points. That means almost 1% on a upward mark. It could go down by 1% for some people. And next off, we have one of the major news coming from Mishtan Food, which is down by 20%, hit the lower circuit as soon as the market started. And basically, the news comes after SEBI sent a cause notice to the Mishtan Food saying, they have misappropriated almost 100 crores of companies' funds. So clearly, it's a big news. And whenever we notice when SEBI sends some sort of a notice to any listed company, we notice, they tend to go down. They react very negatively to it. And we saw the same happening in Mishtan Food as well. So next off, we have the chart of Mishtan Food. As you can see, it did not even give traders any chance. It literally opened at 20% down and then stayed there for the entire day. And next up, we have Advait Infratech, which hit a 5% upper circuit, even though the whole market was sideways. Advait was one of the top gainers for the day, and that's because they have gotten a huge order related to power transmission, which will boost the company's revenue in the coming quarter. So we see the stock reacting to it. And next off, we have MCX, another stock market related stocks. So basically, MCX is the commodity exchange of India, and it has been on quite a boom. And we noticed, NSE and BSE as well, being one of the top gainers, up about 6 to 7% yesterday. And today we notice MCX, another market participant, is also up by, I think 8.5% today. So clearly, there is no major news. There is no clear news as to why this particular stock is going up. But if we notice, there's a huge volume. So clearly, there might be a lot of new investors. Well, anyway, whatever the news is, there's a high demand for all the stock market related stocks, and we're able to see that. I'm very curious to know what news might come in the next coming week, if there is any. And next off, I have a US jobs report which actually showed a good rebound in the hiring process. We noticed in the first of this month when US jobs data came out, it was very slightly positive but almost flat. But for this week, they have mentioned, apparently it is rebounding. See, clearly, if the US market is happy, that the rest of the world stock markets will also be happy. So clearly, US markets were up, and we noticed the same in our markets as well. And next off, we have another major update about Vedanta, which went up by 6%, and that is basically because they have redeemed their $1.2 billion bonds. So now, basically, what happens? All these companies, they have many ways to raise funds, and one of them is basically through raising bonds. So basically, they'll issue bonds, and people will buy the bonds, and the company will get the funds. And at a certain point, they have to buy back those bonds from the people. So that's how the whole bond system works. And clearly, if company has a lot of bonds, that means company owes money to these people, right? So clearly, Vedanta has they have redeemed their bond. That means their debt has gone down, and that means they had enough cash in their company and in their balance sheet to be able to redeem them. So this shows the fundamentally how strong Vedanta is. So clearly, we noticed that is why the stock is up by about 6%. And as you can see, I have the chart here as well. We noticed that the stock was in a slight bearish trend. Even the overall market was down as well. So clearly, today the chart was just to show so today, as you can notice, a huge engulfing candle in the stock just goes up with huge volumes as well.
If you're a trader following market calls and tips for day trading, use our tool RNT, Research and Trade. All you have to do is link RNT to your trading account, then just sit and relax. Turn trading into business at app.gwcindia.live. Check out description for more details.
Disclaimer: investments in the securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.